You already know what time it is. Animated horror stories. Animated horror stories. Where are we going today? Our good cousins SS who was just over there. Our good cousin I am our scary tales house. As always, please be sure to go over to their channel, like some stuff up after you watch the complete video, of course. Subscribe because you gonna get snatched in to their content over there, and let them know your favorite cousin sent you. Now, for my rules over here, please grab a blunt, a bottle of water, maybe two because it's hot, a bag of chips, you know, for that blunt, and a blanket. Only grab a blanket if it's cold as hell in your house. If it's hot, I don't need you catching heat stroke on my command. All right, let's get up in here. What are we doing today? 3 true social media influencer horror stories animated. I'm interested. Why? Because everybody's an influencer. All you have to do is post some content. So let's get up into it. Let's see what's going on. You know it's going to be outrageous.
I still remember the day it all happened, as vividly as if it were yesterday.
Okay, what?
My hands trembled even now as I recount it. I'm Kira, a popular influencer known for my beauty tips and lifestyle vlogs. That day, I hosted a fan meetup at a cozy little cafe in my hometown. Fans crowded around me, eager to take selfies and ask for advice. I felt loved. Then I saw him, Gil. He stood out immediately, disheveled hair, sunken eyes, and
Because he look all creepy staring in your soul. He's gonna follow you home, I just know it.
a weird crooked smile. He waited until the crowd thinned before approaching me. Kira, you look even more beautiful in person.
Thank you.
His voice was raspy, and his gaze intense. I forced a smile and nodded, hoping he would take the hint and move along, but he didn't. Do you remember me? We used to be close.
I'm sorry. I don't think we've met before.
His eyes darkened, and he leaned in closer, whispering, You don't remember your own husband?
I think you have me confused with someone else.
Get your ass up out my face.
He laughed. Even the fans around seemed repelled. No, honey. Enough with the jokes. See, you don't know this yet, but you're my wife. He seemed completely lost in the head.
Please, leave me alone.
Gil's demeanor shifted from creepy to menacing in an instant. I signaled the cafe staff and they quickly intervened, escorting him out. He resisted, shouting obscenities and threats until he was finally thrown out. The room fell silent, and I tried to shake off the encounter, but an uneasy feeling lingered. Minutes later, just as I was beginning to relax, the door burst open. Gil stormed back in, this time wielding 2 guns. Panic erupted. Screams filled the air as he opened fire, bullets spraying indiscriminately. I froze in terror. The cafe turned into a scene from a nightmare. People fell, lingered,
Okay, I'm sorry.
shifted from creepy to menacing in an instant. I signaled the cafe staff and they quickly intervened, escorting him out.
Yep.
He resisted, shouting obscenities and threats until he was finally thrown out. The room fell silent, and I tried to shake off the encounter, but an uneasy feeling lingered. Minutes later, just as I was beginning to relax, the door burst open. Gil stormed back in, this time wielding 2 guns. Panic erupted. Screams filled the air as he opened fire, bullets spraying indiscriminately. I froze in terror. The cafe turned into a scene from a nightmare. People fell, blood pooling around them. I ducked behind a table, my heart pounding so hard I thought it would burst from my chest. Gil's eyes were wild, his mouth twisted in a crazy grin. You can't hide from me, Kira!
You're going
His
to
voice
jail,
cut
Gil.
through the chaos. I tried to stay low, crawling towards the back exit. A bullet whizzed past my ear, embedding itself in the wall. I felt a sharp pain in my side and looked down to see blood seeping through my shirt. I had been hit. I bit back a scream, adrenaline the only thing keeping me moving. I reached the kitchen, hoping to find a way out. But Gil was relentless. He kicked open the door and his eyes locked onto mine. "There you are, my love."
You shot
He
me
raised
twice.
the gun,
Fuck
and
out of
I
here.
thought it was the end. Suddenly, a loud crash diverted his attention. A brave stranger tackled him.
Beat
The
his
patron,
ass, stranger.
a burly man with a determined look, slammed Gil against the stainless steel counter.
He
The
passed
gun
out.
clattered to the floor.
Nope.
Gil
Pick
snarled
it up.
and
Pick it up.
swung a wild punch, connecting with the man's jaw. The patron staggered but didn't fall.
All right,
He grabbed
beat
a
his
frying
ass.
pan from the stove and swung
All right,
it with all
stranger.
his might.
Come on now,
striking
hurry
Gil's
up.
shoulder. Gil let out a feral scream. His
Girl,
eyes
you over there
blazing
watching.
with
You need to
madness.
grab the gun or
He
something.
lunged, grabbing a butcher's knife from the counter. The patron blocked with his arm,
Ah.
the blade slicing through his shirt but
Okay.
only grazing the skin.
That's fine.
Blood
Fight
stained
through
the
that.
fabric as the two grappled, their movements desperate and brutal.
Come on,
I remember
stranger.
that Gil's hand found a pot of boiling water,
Ah,
and he hurled
and you
it at
just
the
over there
man.
watching the
Steam
gun on the
hissed,
floor, girl,
and
the
man
gun on the
howled in
floor.
pain as the scalding liquid splashed across his face and chest.
Kira,
Despite
grab
the
the
agony,
gun.
he didn't back down. He kicked out, catching Gil in the knee, causing
Okay.
him to stumble.
Swing,
Seizing the
stranger.
opportunity, the man delivered a powerful punch,
Yup.
sending Gil crashing into a stack of pans.
Kira just in the back
Gil
watching all
went
this.
for the gun, and
That
so
you
did the
should have
man.
been
He
grabbed.
rolled, punching and kicking. He
Uh-huh,
was fighting
whooped
for
his ass.
control. Gil's hand found a broken glass bottle,
Oh.
and he slashed at the man's arm, drawing
Okay.
blood. Panting, bloodied, and burned, the man stood over Gil, his heaving with exhaustion and pain. The kitchen was a wreck. Pots, pans, and utensils
you're just standing
strewn
in the back
everywhere.
doing
the acrid
nothing
smell of
at
burnt
all.
food hanging in the air. But that's when Gil grabbed the gun and shot it at the man. The stranger fell down, and I
Ugh.
screamed in horror.
What are you screaming for? You sat there and watched him get the gun. That man got burned. He got stabbed. What else? He was getting his ass toe up. And you just sat there in the back watching. The gun been on the floor. You could have grabbed the gun. You could have grabbed the pan. You could have grabbed the knife. You're in the kitchen. He there for you. He ain't there for the stranger. Now he's shot, burnt up, stabbed up with a broken bottle. You know that's gonna get infected. And you just in the back watching. A damn
I
shame.
finally got out of the shock and managed to get up and head for the back door.
Finally got out of the shock, she says. Finally got out of the shock. Girl, shut up.
I finally got out of the
Ugh.
shock and managed to get up and head for the back door before
You
Gil
make
could
me,
focus on me again.
like,
Outside, the
That's a
sound of
damn
sirens
shame.
filled the air. The
left that
police
man
had
in
arrived.
there.
I collapsed on the pavement, the world spinning around me. The
Collapsed on
officers
the
stormed the
pavement for
cafe,
what?
and seconds after a few seconds of gunfire, it all became silent. They got to my psycho stalker, but I decided to get off of Insta and Live, a life devoid of attention in that moment.
Get off of Insta
I'd
and
always
Live in
been
that
drawn
moment.
to the
Bitch, you were on it the whole time.
The unexplained. As a YouTuber specializing in paranormal adventures, my channel had gained quite a following. My latest adventure brought me to the outskirts of my hometown, infamous for the ghost sighting of the Virgin Bride, a young woman from the 1800s who died mysteriously on her wedding night. Legend had it that she roamed the woods, forever searching for her lost groom. I wanted to document my experience and see if the stories were true. I set off with my trusty dog Max by my side, vlogging the entire journey. The sun hung low in the sky as we entered the dense forest. The air had the faint smell of pine.
All right, guys. We're about to enter the woods where the Virgin Bride has been sighted 2 days ago.
Okay.
This rancher from my town was passing through the shortcut when he says that he saw her. I've got Max with me, and we're camping out here tonight. Wish us luck.
We hiked for hours until we found a clearing to set up camp. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the forest grew eerily quiet. I pitched the tent and started a small fire.
Not to complain or nothing, but I feel like camping there is just a little too much. Like, if you could just walk around and see her, that's one thing, but you gotta sleep out there.
trying to shake off the growing sense of unease.
It's getting dark, and the woods are definitely creepy. But we're here to find out if the legend is true.
Oh,
I've got my
knife.
camera, my
Oh, a bottle light.
flashlight, and Max.
You need a
Let's
bigger
see what
light.
happens.
Suddenly, after a few hours, a distant, mournful cry pierced the stillness. Max's ears perked up and he let out a low growl.
Did you guys hear that?
Period, Max. Let's go.
It sounded like crying. Okay, this is getting weird.
I grabbed my flashlight and panned it around the campsite. The crying
packed up my bag
continued,
so
closer
fast.
this time, mixed
Hint
with
left.
what sounded like soft whispering. My heart pounded in my chest, but I forced myself to stay calm for the sake of the video.
All right, we're hearing some really strange noises. I kind of wish I wasn't alone.
Max's growl turned into a bark. He stared
I always respect
intently
Max
at a
like
point
that.
just
Like,
beyond the
I'm right
fire's
here.
light. I followed his gaze, but saw nothing. Still, the sense of being watched was overwhelming.
Max, what is it? Do you see something?
Yes.
I
you
stood
see
up,
something.
the camera shaking in my hand as I moved closer to where Max was focused.
The fact
The
that
air
you're
grew
closer is
colder around
insane.
there. The crying and whistling grew louder, surrounding us.
Okay, guys, this is getting really intense.
A sudden gust of wind extinguished the fire, plunging us into darkness. I fumbled for my flashlight, the beam flickering before going out completely. Max
time to go.
whimpered, pressing against my leg.
Stay close, Max. We need to get out of here.
As I turned to head back to the tent, a figure in a white dress appeared in the corner of my eye. I
Don't even
froze,
turn around.
the hair on the back of my neck standing on end.
the camera
The
on your
figure
back.
was faint, almost translucent,
right on your shoulder.
and drifted towards us. I felt a sharp pain in my side, as if something had clawed me. I cried out, dropping the camera.
Shit, shit, shit! Run, Max, run!
I grabbed Max's leash and ran, stumbling through the underbrush. The
Okay.
figure followed, gliding effortlessly over the rough terrain. The crying turned into a wail, and the whistling became a deafening shriek. I tripped over a root, falling hard and
Of course
scraping
you
my
did.
knee. Blood trickled down my leg, but I forced myself to get up.
You better.
We burst through the trees and into the open, the forest edge in sight. I dared a glance back and saw the figure standing at the tree line, her face obscured by a veil. Her hand reached out, but she couldn't cross the boundary. Panting, I collapsed on the ground, clutching Max. The night was silent again, the oppressive feeling lifting. I realized my camera was still running, capturing our escape.
We made it! We actually made it!
I thought your camera
I
fell
don't know
back
what
there.
that was, but it's real. Holy fuck. The Virgin Bride is real. Guys, I hope it came on camera.
You're so excited.
I
That's
looked
so
down at
insane.
Max, who licked my face, his tail wagging. We had survived, but the haunting presence of the Virgin Bride would stay with me forever. I ended the recording, vowing never to return to those woods again.
Like,
But I
you
was
just
in
sitting
for
there.
a rude shock when I processed the video the next day. Whenever the camera was on me, the picture quality was fine. But whenever I turned it towards the ghost of the bride, the camera quality became grainy. Yet, the figure was there, captured, translucent, crying, haunting. I don't know what all history this place had, but now I know that ghosts are real.
Mind your damn business and you won't find out.
Being an Instagram influencer has its perks. Free products, exclusive events, and a massive following. But it
Alright.
also has its downsides. And lately, those were getting harder to ignore. It all started with a message from an account with no profile picture and a single follower. You look good in the blue nightgown last night.
Oh, hell
I
no.
stared at the message, my heart pounding. I hadn't posted any photos of myself in my nightwear, and I lived alone. I tried to brush it off as a lucky guess or a prank, but the unease
Immediately leave. Because
So
why are
deep
you
in my
texting me
gut.
all crazy?
Who is this? How do you know what I wore?
There was no immediate response. I tried to go about my day, but I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. The messages kept coming from different accounts, each one more unsettling than the last. remember the red dress you wore on your first date with Ryan? My blood ran cold. Ryan was a guy I had dated briefly before things got weird and I ended it. I hadn't thought about him in years. How did this person know?
Leave me alone!
That night, I couldn't sleep. Every creak of the house made me jump. Around midnight, I received another message. You can't ignore me forever. I threw my phone across the room, my hand shaking. Enough was enough. I blocked the account again and decided to put my phone on silent. A heavy silence filled the house as I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. I finally drifted off, only to be jolted awake by the sound of footsteps. I sat up, straining to hear. The footsteps were slow, deliberate, coming from the hallway outside my bedroom.
Are you on the first floor?
There?
How about the window?
No response.
Why would you say who's there
I grabbed my
if
phone.
you just said you're the only one in the house? Ain't nobody supposed to be there. You live alone. You just told us you live alone. Who's there? Ain't nobody supposed to be there. Oh, I can't stand
and turned
when
on
they
the
say who's
flashlight,
there.
the beam cutting through the darkness. The footsteps continued, moving closer. My heart pounded in my chest as I got out of bed, the floor cold under my feet. I crept to the door and opened it, shining the light down the hall. It was empty. The air grew colder with each step. I was sure that someone or something was there.
It's
I'm
Ryan.
calling 911.
Suddenly, a shadow darted across the hall. I screamed, dropping my phone.
Oh,
It clattered
God.
to the floor, and the flashlight spinning wildly. I grabbed it and backed into my room, slamming the door shut and dialed for help.
Hello? 911? Please send someone over. There's someone in my house.
But that is when I heard a hoarse, heavy, manly voice, which had static interruptions.
On the
I
911?
am sorry. 911 isn't available right now.
Oh,
Can I call
God,
the fake
we hacked your
bestie you
phone.
had called to get away from me on our last date? I froze. The temperature in the room plummeted. I could see my breath and the hairs on my arms stood on end. The door rattled as if someone was trying to break it down. It couldn't be him. I heard from a friend that Ryan had hung himself a few days after I ditched him. I backed into the corner. The rat
Oh. That's definitely him. You're getting got.
hung himself a few days after I ditched him. I backed into the corner. The rattling grew louder. A cacophony of scary voices surrounded me. That is when the door burst open and a shadowy figure stood before me. I couldn't make out any features, just a dark silhouette against the light from the hall.
Okay, we
The
only see
figure
eyes.
moved towards me, slow and deliberate. I tried to scream, but no sound came out. Pain exploded in my side, as if something sharp had slashed me. I looked down, and I saw blood seeping through my shirt.
Oh,
I pressed my hand to the
no.
wound,
What did you
trying
do?
to stop the bleeding.
You just
I
left them.
scrambled to my feet and ran for the door, but
Ryan,
the
it ain't
figure
that
was there,
serious.
blocking my way. That is when I realized who he was. Translucent and dark, bloodshot eyes that seemed inhuman, disfigured face. But the scent, I knew instantly that it was Ryan's scent. I turned and ran to the window, throwing it open and climbing out onto the roof. The cold night air hit me like a slap, but I didn't care. I
He might
had
push
to
you
get
off.
away.
It's all right.
I climbed down the trellis, slipping and scraping my hands on the rough wood and hit the ground hard, pain shooting up my bleeding leg.
It's all right,
I
get up
limped
and
to the
go.
street, not daring to look back. As I reached the sidewalk, I glanced over my shoulder and saw the figure standing in my window, watching me before it vanished right before my eyes. I can't explain it, but I am convinced that it was Ryan's ghost.
It was.
I didn't stop until I reached my neighbor's house and pounded on the door. They let me in, and I collapsed on the floor, sobbing. They called 911 and police came, but they didn't find anyone in my house. I moved out of that place within a week. I just hope that Ryan is somehow finally at peace.
He could be, because, you know, he scraped your leg up, cussed you out, or he could be trying to wait so he could come get you. You know, who knows? Who knows? Hopefully you're alright. Um, those three were good. I think my favorite was the first one. Even though I yelled the most at the first one because she pissed me off, because why would you stand there? She could have been grabbed the gun and shot Gil because he dropped the gun. She could have been helped that stranger. Like, and I'm not sure, like, was she recording? Like, I'm unclear. Do you think she was recording because of the way she said it at the end? She said she finally got off the live when 12 got there. Like, I am confused because girl, were you recording the fight? That's why you couldn't jump in and help? Like, just pissed me all the way off. Let me know your feelings in the comments. As I always say, support is free, so go over to IMR Scary Tales House and subscribe over there. If you haven't already, please subscribe over here and chat over here. And until next time, I love you guys.